Now, on the topic of virtue and bravery, working within charity and NGO space is often riddled with challenges and difficulties, but what emerges is a very deep sense of achievement and genuine satisfaction to give and be a source of reliance for people who are less able than us. Amity, a London-based NGO looking to raise awareness and acceptance of individuals with special needs within our community, is doing just that, providing awareness, hope and support to families with less abled individuals. I'm delighted to have an Amity representative, Sarah Hamza, with us here in the studio. Sarah, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Thank you so much for coming onto the show. I guess firstly, briefly, can you introduce Amity in its primary mission or goals?
Yeah,
What's Amity all about?
So Amity is a non-profit organisation that essentially at its core is there to raise awareness and advocate and empower families or individuals with special needs or disabilities in our community.
Yeah.
It's there to kind of provide the space where we talk about the disabilities and the special needs, so it's no longer taboo in our community, and empower those people so that their differences can be celebrated.
Yeah.
And there's opportunity there for equality within our community.
Inshallah, inshallah. I guess there's a lot of inspiration that you must have taken as a whole group, but what really inspired Amity to exist? And how long has it been running actually?
So Amity's been running for a few years now, and it was co-founded by a group of individuals that actually found a deficit in our community when it came to talking about disabilities, or even having the facilities for families of individuals with special needs within our community, and the space within our mosques for those individuals and for those families. Up until very recently, or even currently, I'd like to say, there is a big taboo talking about disabilities within our community, and specifically within the Muslim and Shia communities here in London. And having that space where you can talk and raise awareness about these things, and no longer making it a taboo, is one of the main kind of missions for Amity.
Have you, on a personal sense, kind of seen change happen within the community after having discussions and raising awareness?
For sure. I think generally Amity is a successful story. It's one of those things where when Amity started, I don't think there was much talk in, let's say, from my personal experience, the Iraqi community, where people would talk about the kind of needs of disabled people in our community, or the needs of families with special needs in our community. Whereas now you have, for example, we've started a podcast, we have the Disability Awareness Days, we have conferences, we have more people, for example, in majalis talking about families or individuals with special needs and what their needs are within our community, and how we as a community can support them and help them, and addressing those kind of physical barriers and the social barriers that we have in today's society.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of, I guess, challenges that you guys face. Not everyone on the surface is willing to accept these discussions, right? So organizations that do majalis will be like, yeah, of course, we're very inclusive, and when we see people who are less abled, you know, we're very supportive and welcoming. However, when you kind of really look deeper into it, there is a bit of a bias, there is a bit of a reluctance to get involved. But what are the biggest challenges that you've seen in terms of being able to really implement a change within our majalis specifically? Because we talk on families want to go out. And they want to go to the Husseiniat, they want to go to the community centers. Those who have family members who are less abled, they're going to be hesitant to do so. So from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges that they face before they go into a majlis, these people who have families that are less abled?
So I guess you can kind of split those challenges that you're kind of referring to as physical barriers and social barriers. We can start off by talking about the physical barriers that are very obvious to the eye, and like, for example, mosques that don't have wheelchair ramps, or they don't have disabled friendly restrooms, or for example BSL interpreters for those that are that have hearing loss or are deaf.
What be
British Sign Language interpreters,
BSL.
Or even like for people that are visually impaired, kind of support for them during these majalis. We don't have that yet. I think other communities, for example, we can compare to the Pakistani or the Khoja communities, they're kind of much more forward in that aspect. And they have those support there, but not 100%. And I think the Iraqi community could definitely, and the Iranian communities could definitely catch up to them. And then you have the social barriers that are challenges for those families where it comes to, for example, people staring or people judging, or people talking about like, they shouldn't bring an autistic child to the majlis if he's going to make noise, and things like that. And those are the social barriers that I think most families face. And when I speak to families or individuals with special needs or kind of disability, that's one thing that they always mention, is that our community, there's a lot of kind of the social aspect that they need support, and we need to talk about it more so people don't do these things. And a lot of, like, for example, staring, that it's just a matter of judgment, or a matter of they don't know what to do, and that's because we haven't had those conversations, because previously it was taboo. So
we need to have these workshops, these seminars, to be able to educate people on how to deal with those who are less abled. So what is Amity doing to, I guess, address these issues, and what is the specific work that they're doing, speaking to these local centres, especially the Iraqi ones, for example?
So Amity does a lot of kind of things, and it's kind of branched into different aspects. But I think one of the things that we do is, like, for example, workshops. They run workshops for families of individuals with special needs or disabilities. They run them with professionals. So they talk about, for example, how to deal with sensory difficulties, how to deal with feeding difficulties for these children, alongside the fact that they play kind of an advisory roles to sometimes these centres when they ask for it. One of the main things that we kind of advocate for is actual representation when it comes to leaderships in our community. So people that sit on executive boards in the mosques and stuff, so they have that kind of advisory roles to help them kind of address what the needs are of these people in our community.
Right. Fantastic stuff, honestly. I mean, you mentioned before that Amity is a success story. So could you share one or two success stories or testimonials from individuals that have benefited from Amity?
Yeah, so I can't really pinpoint now off the top of my head, but majority of people that kind of interact with Amity, one of the main aspects that they kind of talk about is how Amity has built a support network for them, has built kind of a community within a community for families to get involved, for mothers to talk to other mothers, to learn from each other, to listen and to hear that it's okay for maybe their child to be acting or their child to have this disability, and how they can involve, and seeing other families being involved in our community and such.
Right. So let's talk about, I guess, you from a personal perspective, and you working with NGOs, or specifically Amity. How long have you been with Amity?
I've been with Amity for a few years now.
A few years now, okay. And of course, it goes without saying that there's obviously a personal satisfaction, but what actually drives you to work with this particular group?
I don't even think it's the satisfaction. I think it's just the gap, seeing that they need people to work with them. The community needs that work, and it's just something that I feel like on a basic kind of humanity level, it's just something that we need to do. It's something that we need to work on, and it's kind of embarrassing that we haven't already addressed the needs of people in our community. We technically are a Muslim organization, and we pride ourselves being Muslims in this world, that we are kind of the best religion out there, and we're meant to be all-inclusive. I mean, that's what the Prophet came to do. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us to do.
Absolutely.
And it's something that I personally strive for, and I really hope that people, watching, and the viewers, and they can take that upon themselves, and to say, actually, no, we need to do more for our community. It's one of the most important things in Islam, is the community, is that ummah aspect.
Absolutely.
And we need to be there for each other, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, and that includes everyone. Includes people that are less able, includes people that have special needs, includes the families of those individuals too.
Amity as a word, in top of my head, I think it means like an amana. What's an amana? I keep forgetting the word amana.
Like something you need to treasure.
You need to treasure, right? And is that where the inspirations kind of come from? So Amity means my obligation to look after something, right? So I really love the name. I think it's a fantastic name that does kind of give you that sense of all of these people are our responsibility,
Sure.
whether they are abled or less abled. But essentially, there are needs that the community has, and it's our responsibility to treasure it and look after it. So I guess finally, if you wanted to encourage people to get involved in NGOs and get involved specifically with Amity, how do they do so?
Well, they can do so by first and foremost joining our socials.
Yeah.
I have to plug it.
Yeah.
They can go on the website and they can reach out. I think majority of people kind of follow on socials and they support, and that goes a really long way because it's essentially raising awareness. And scrolling through Instagram, when you see that one post of something and you go, oh really, yeah, that just clicked. And so joining through socials and then reaching out through the contact us button and just saying how can I help and how can I get involved, especially professionals and people that know how to deal with individuals or families of individuals with special needs, and that's something really important.
In light of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam and obviously the days of her martyrdom, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I don't think I prepared for this one, but is there a way of using Fatima Zahra alayhi salam as an inspiration to the work that you do?
Of course, Fatima Zahra is an inspiration to all of us in every single aspect of our lives. And I think one of the main roles when it comes to Amity Fatima Zahra played was the advocacy of her rights and the advocacy of herself, and saying that just because you may be in the shadow, you know, sometimes, and that not everybody's watching you, not everybody's kind of feeling you or understanding you, it doesn't mean that we can't stand up and defend that right. Absolutely. And I think it's one thing that Fatima Zahra did. She defended her right, she defended the right of her Imam, and we learned that we need to defend the same kind of aspect, but when it comes to everyone in our community, because that's the right thing to do.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I guess lastly, there must be some events, maybe upcoming events or past events that you've done, but looking forward, what are the upcoming events that people can get involved in?
Seminars,
definitely. Workshops?
Yeah, for sure. So our workshops run, and you can check the Instagram and the website for them. The workshops run online on Teams, and they have professionals that run them, and they're coming up, inshallah, after in a couple of months, inshallah. And inshallah, if the podcast keeps running.
Inshallah. Podcast is on YouTube, right? I've seen
podcast, yes, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
And it was
What's it called?
TV. It's called Out of Sight.
Out of Sight. Fantastic. Well, Sarah, I really, really appreciate your time. Very eloquently put, and I think that last bit about Fatima Zahra is what's key to be inspiration to what you guys do. I know many other different members of Amity as well, and I know the struggles that they go through on a day-to-day basis, especially when it comes to majalis and stuff. So thank you very much for coming onto the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Yeah, so